Welcome to Mornings with the Focus. It's been a little while. I'm happy to be back, knocking this out on a regular basis. Joined by Justin Walters, which means we're going to talk about a little football at some point, especially since you see the title of today's Morning with the Focus broadcast is about training camp, because training camps are officially here. We're going to talk a little bit about just some pup news with some big names on the physically starting the year on the physically unable to perform list. Then also want to get Justin's take on Kyler Murray's deal, and just a couple position battles around the league. Obviously, we're not about to go team by team today, position by position in terms of position battles. So the other thing you guys know, this is a conversation. So if there's position battles that you want to talk about or you want to hear, what we might have to think about it, hit the comment section. Do not be shy. Same rules as before the break still apply. Quick some NBA news though. 2:30 a.m. Adrian Wojnarowski gets on the Twitter machine and types out a report about Kevin Durant. Shams kind of followed it up 6 or 7 hours later. Well, not 6 or 7 hours, but a few hours later. But regardless, reports from Woj and Shams this morning said that the Celtics are a new team in the KD sweepstakes. Cool, no big news there. Per Shams, though, the Nets rejected a package centered around Jaylen Brown. It was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a draft pick. The Nets laughed that off, and they countered with, how about Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and draft picks? I'm sorry, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, draft picks, and one more rotation player. Again, all of this is noise until something does happen. Another thing to consider is what this means. A lot of people why would this even be a thing? The Celtics have Jaylen Brown under, an affordable deal for 2 more years. We know KD's deal. He's wherever he goes, if he moves at all, he's on a 4-year deal, right? Jaylen Brown's probably gonna eclipse 200 mil somewhere. However people might feel about him, that is a young kid on the up and up. We saw the type of year he just had. We saw the performance he had in the finals. It was kind of sort of maybe the more consistent of the two of Boston stars. Another story, another conversation, another day. That said, if this doesn't happen, one thing you got to think about is the after effects, the ripple effects from this, because it got out. We saw how fragile, Boston's locker room was a couple years ago when they first talked about breaking these two up. So we'll see. We'll just keep an eye on it. But as of right now, it's nothing more than noise. And we'll see what it leads to. And again, one thing to remember is he has 2 more years left on his deal. So even if it's not a trade to Brooklyn, they could still move him and get that's a hell of an asset to have. On the other side of things, Donovan Mitchell apparently available. So obviously the first team tied to them was the New York Knicks. Some reports from The Athletic came out this morning that up to 6 teams are interested, including Washington. I don't get how, but hey, we're gonna see if anything actually does happen. But movement, the NBA has they just have no chill. They don't know how to just relax for just a little bit. I know if you guys have been watching the Focus TV recently, my stance, I feel like the KD thing is kind of like the Debo thing, where requests were made, but the price is the price. And after Rudy Gobert just got moved for 5 picks, if I'm the Nets, I don't care about KD's age. I don't care what you're gonna tell me to depreciate his value. I'm gonna laugh at you in the face and say Rudy Gobert went 4, and we start there. That's just me though. All right, Justin. The training camps. Some have already started over this weekend. We got probably by tomorrow, every team is, officially begun in terms of players reporting and whatnot, things of that nature. Some pup news. We got Green Bay. David Bakhtiari, remember him? They're big time left tackle. Kind of sad for him. They expected him to return, hopefully last year, but he was placed on the pup list this weekend. It's been 2 years. We're approaching 2 years since he's been injured. He was injured December 2020. So that's tough for him coming back from an ACL injury. Keeping in mind, how medical science these days, folks been bouncing back from ACLs knee sprains back in the day. They bounce back pretty quick. So it's kind of interesting, or to think about just how big of an injury this was for him if he's still not back, right? And then where does that leave Green Bay? They have, you have Elkin Jenkins, which provide you some flexibility, but that's a big piece. And to my recollection, I don't remember them going out and drafting a left tackle high. So, it's kind of a big thing. Another player on the pup list, a big time player. Obviously, there's numerous players. Like there's like 7 or 8 other players on Green Bay that are on the pup list. But Darius Leonard had back surgery this offseason. He's on the pup list to start the year for the Colts. It's expected that he'll get back and be right. One of the best linebackers in the NFL. And the Colts defense is not the Colts defense without him. So, the Colts are going to want him to get back ASAP and as healthy as possible. All right, Justin, your thoughts on Kyler Murray, man. Man got broke off. All that noise, all year, all these months. At the end of the day, 5-year extension worth up to $230.5 million with 160 of it guaranteed.
I mean, I think instead of looking at, everyone's looking at the money, but it's like your value is what you're worth, or and I think for that team, the way that the organization ran and the way they haven't developed anything around them, that's his value. You know what I mean? If he went to another team, maybe it doesn't work that way, but that team is based off of him. Like their whole identity of Kingsbury is there because of him. The success they've had is because of him. So it's to that team, he's worth that money, and I think that's the part people overlook. He just, they're a really average team. Well, less than average. They're average with him. So I mean, without him, they're a less than average team. Maybe if they had made some certain moves, things would be different. But they didn't have any power. You know what I mean? I think that's what caught up to them. They tried to play tough, but after a while, they just realized they had to give it. And again, he's one of the few guys who can, not saying he can win championships, but he can win games. Like he can separate himself. Like when the team's struggling, he can make the plays to win games for teams, which he's done for them. He's carried them probably more than he should have.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also one of those things where sometimes, like, from a Nationals perspective, if it's not that if it's not your team personally, if follow other teams in the league, it's easy to be like, oh, you're just looking at the numbers, and that's what I saw people do. Like, look at his numbers versus somebody else's numbers. I mean, sometimes you just have to really watch that team. Like you said, that everyone's value on depending on the team and the roster they're on, the situation, it changes. Like his value there, they'd be dead if they lost him. Like think about this. They just lost Chandler Jones. But the biggest issue was if they lost Kyler Murray. And I'm not saying Kyler Murray is definitively better than Chandler Jones or what Chandler Jones does, respectively in their position group. Because I think Chandler Jones is probably better at what he does than Kyler at this point. However, it's a quarterback under 25 years old or whatever. You can't let that go. Especially when you did what you did to get him. You essentially threw away a whole draft with Rosen. And then we're like, oh, we got to start over with you. You can't let him go. Like at this point, you just can't. So whatever we might think of him on the outside, I do think he's very good. I do think he's a little bit hampered by his coaching situation. That said, they're together, man. Cliff came in. Hey, look, that's Cliff's guy, and Cliff wasn't about to be out here without Kyler. I think that's what we do know for sure. All right, man. Some position battles. I know I had some groups for some teams that scribbled out some notes this morning. You want me to start, or you want to go? I can't hear you. My bad.
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple, but I mean, the most basic ones, obviously, the Carolina quarterback situation, whatever that is. I mean, it's pretty short or giving it the basics. And then it's just really, for me, what's more interesting is what happens after that. You know what I'm saying? If they give Baker the job, do they try to move Darnold to somebody, there's a team, want him as a backup, that type of situation. I don't think I'm looking at it as a competition, and then plus, the draft picks team up for Corral, so it's not like they can just say, put Corral on the practice squad and hope no one takes him, like, because they invested picks for next year. They gave a third, I think a second or third round pick for next year. So that was one that was interesting to me. Another couple, the Patriots running back situation is interesting to me just because they have so many of them. And Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. I think they drafted another one or two, and they always have a James White type. If it might even be James White, that one. And then obviously the receivers also. And I mean, I got a bunch with the Cowboys, but we can talk about that another time.
since you didn't want to get into the Cowboys, I also had the Pats, but for a different reason. I had their cornerbacks group. Like I have the bunch of talent. I'm interested to see who wins out. Like Jalen Mills, Malcolm Butler, John Jones, Joanne Williams, Justin Bethel, Terrence Mitchell, Marcus Jones, Sean Wade. Like they have a nice group of vets and young dudes who they need to prove. Like I don't feel like there's not a guy that can't play in that group. However, someone has to be top dog. Who's this going to be, right? And I think that's going to be interested to see who gets to the top of that depth chart and how it shakes out afterwards. Another group I had was with the Dolphins running backs. On paper, yeah, you got Chase Edmonds, you got Mostert, Sony Michel, Myles Gaskin. Who's going to make it through training camp, and how does it shake out? Because honestly, sometimes the best thing with Mostert is to have him as RB2 so you can kind of save him. I think that might be the best way to utilize him. Then I guess my question is with Edmonds, who would you like as your RB1, Edmonds or Sony Michel? It's kind of being your battering ram in that case. So, I don't know. A fun one. Who the heck is wide receiver 1 in Kansas City, man?
Everyone kind of just like shakes that off like it's no big deal, you know. And I don't know if you've seen when you're with Cardinals on TV and first take something talking about.
I heard about it, but I didn't click.
Yeah. He didn't say anything crazy. I was disappointed watching him talk because you can place a 4-2 guy with 4-2 guy like it's that easy, but it's not. It's not like Hardman's been making plays at all. So to think that he's just going to change, step into Tyreek's role, and he couldn't be doing it, but the reason he wasn't was because they had Tyreek doing it is kind of not what we see watching the games. But you can see them attempting to try to make him that guy, and he wasn't having much success with it. So he does have the speed, and maybe they designed different ways to get the ball in his hands, but he's not a number 1, maybe not even a number 2. And again, with Kelsey getting older, and just what that did. Kelsey is a really good player, great player, but having a guy that when you have to play your safeties at a certain depth, usually 2 of them, that makes things a lot easier for everybody.
Nah, for sure. And that's the other thing. You gotta, Juju's not old yet. Like it feels like he's been around forever, but he's still young. So you got Juju, Miko, MVS, Josh Gordon, Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Cornell Power, Maurice Fontaine, Corey Coleman, who's still floating around the NFL trying to find a space somewhere. Omar Bayless. I think and like this is the thing for Miko, which I kind of feel bad about. I feel like you said, I feel like they gave him opportunities to take advantage of the fact that you were playing with Tyreek and Travis, and nobody was paying you any mind. And I feel like you didn't take advantage of said opportunities, which to me, I like my 2 like kind of wild cards in this. I feel like MVS really could do something, and I feel like if Justin Ross is right, that changes the group. Then it puts all them other little dudes in the middle, and it doesn't matter with the rest of them dudes who's in the slot. It just really doesn't matter. It could be Juju, it could be Miko. You can make Miko like gadget guy only if he continues to not seize the opportunities, right? But as Patrick Mahomes, and you're giving him, 2 big targets outside that he hasn't had. And I think MVS and Justin could complement each other. Because it's not like with MVS and Green Bay, was it that he didn't get open? No, it wasn't that. It was just like he was one of those freaks of nature that had a bunch of concentration drops. It was more so like, dude, why? Why? And in other games, you're like, oh, there it goes. But it was never consistent enough, right? But at least to me, I never felt like it was a talent thing. I think dude's outrageously gifted, but we'll see, man. And then Josh Gordon's still there. I don't know. I have no idea. But another one I had, the Jags, and this is just for their Clemson backfield period. I'm going to throw away the Urban Meyer year, give them both a mulligan. What do Lawrence and Etienne look like? This year under what is it, Doug Peterson now?
Yeah.
Like what do you think Etienne can be? Because I remember when he got drafted, I was one of the people like, why did you take him? I was one of many people. Why did you take him that high? So, like, what do you think? Like, do you think there's more? Like, they can get something where it's a legit 3-down guy, or is it just he's gonna get an opportunity to supplant James Robinson?
I can't see that part, but because I mean, even when they picked him, it was they first labeled him as a wide receiver, and obviously with the new coaching staff, they're gonna move him back into running back. But there's probably still people there that were part of that original selection. I just don't see him as that guy. I mean, again, James Robinson had up and down year last year, but that was I guess he got into Van Meyer's doghouse. But the year before he was one of the best backs in the league. So I don't think, and I remember Lawrence defending him last year, saying, they don't know why he was the best player on the team, and they don't know why he wasn't getting the touches. So I think it's more of a complimentary thing where Etienne will, get some receptions. I mean, his last few years at Clemson, he got better as a receiver, so maybe through some receiving and some outside, the sweeps and outside game, kind of like I don't want to use the example of what Dallas attempts to do with Pollard, you know. I think that's what he is. I don't see that other player. I don't see Kamara. I don't see some of those other guys that maybe people are trying to make him into.
All right. I think that's all I really had in terms of like around the league. And I think the great thing is once camp starts, days get going, we'll start to see some of this stuff shake out, and we'll be able to get into those conversations. And again, just
I got a question.
You're way too excited to say I have a question.
I'm holding this one in.
Oh man.
All right, what about the San Francisco running back though?
I knew you were gonna go there, right? Like, see, I was out. Look, matter of fact, I was already prepared for this question or a question about that team as a whole. First, I'll answer your question. Then I'm gonna give you my pretty much my general statement on training camp this year for my team, so I don't have to answer this ever again because I believe my statement will encompass all of the questions that may come up for you. But specifically for that group, I think that's the fun thing. I think anybody going into this year trying to figure out who's going to be what in that group based off of last year, you're already behind. Throw last year out the window. Has nothing to do with anything as a whole with that team on both sides of the ball. That's what I truly feel. But specifically for the running back group, Mike McDaniels is no longer here. Anthony Lynn is. Anthony Lynn has been the architect of several very effective run games with outstanding talent, middling talent, and not so great talent. One of the things that make his run game so special is how diverse it is. And we know Shanny and McDaniels together, they found a lot of ways to skin the same cat per se, right? A lot of different ways to do it. Where like no matter what, we're gonna get back to this outside zone. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get back to those wind backs, those counters and things that are explosive as hell. That's it. We saw last year. We saw them get a little bit more into power, gap, things of that nature. That said, I still don't think it was the full shebang. Now you bring Anthony Lynn, right? Bro, I think I'm interested to see how it shakes out, but I think no matter who's going to be 1 and 2, I think a lot of Elijah Mitchell fans are going to have to accept the fact that he was drafted in the 6th round, probably to be a compliment to the other two dudes, whoever the other two dudes may be, right? I also think that it's going to be committee because they're not doing what they did last year ever again, for many reasons. One starts with the guy they're waiting to pay. They're not doing that again. Just death taxes and we're going to find a way for our run game to be explosive without you coming back here to do their job. We can sprinkle in. Matter of fact, they even went to go get some other people to come help do that part of the job. Like, that's just not going to be it, right? So I hope I answered your question. But ideally, I think what it's going to be is, I think it's going to be Sermon, TDP, then Elijah Mitchell.
I've seen some videos and stuff on Twitter talking about Elijah's injury issues and Sermon. I think Sermon at some camp running back drills, and then I've seen a lot of TDP catching up after the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But last one I had was for Dallas was the first one in the cornerback position opposite Diggs. I think that's a big one for them because that's gonna separate. That's gonna play a big part in how far they can go this year. You know, because whether we like Diggs or not, you're not. You know, you're gonna attack him for the big plays. But I think also if you can pick on the other side, you will. You know what I mean? We got Anthony Brown, we got Jordan Lewis still there, and I think it's just super dependent on what Kelvin Joseph gives. You know, I read somewhere that his
He got
charges were
cleared.
dropped. Yeah, he got
Yeah.
cleared. So you know, Jerry must have got whatever. But I think he plays a huge part because of his actual cover ability. You know, maybe he doesn't give you the takeaways, but if he can be consistent and almost where they don't have to help him as much and just let him actually be able to cover for what they drafted him for, which he showed it on tape. You know, so if he can do that, that gives them a big advantage, especially with the loss of Randy Gregory. You know, as another end that got pressure, and then you know figuring out what happens at that linebacker position if Jabril Cox steps in and Van Rest plays. If it allows them to actually let Parsons rush even more than he did last year. So I think a lot of the turnovers came from being able to get more pressure last year than they've gotten in the past. You know, and then adding in Diggs' ability, what he does. You know, and then also, you know, Lee Hooker. But it'll just be interesting to watch that cornerback position because, you know, they are confident in Anthony Brown because they played him the last couple of years. And Jordan Lewis. They keep bringing those two guys back. So, but Joseph is the one that can take that defense to another level if he wins the job.
You know, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it all depends on Joseph. To be honest, like no disrespect to the other two dudes you named, it's him. Like from a talent standpoint, like Diggs and him are the premium talent at that position on that roster. And dare I say, dudes. Dude's he's more disciplined than the guy on the other side, which would go a long way. I think that's the best way. That's the kindest way I could put it. You don't want two dudes that gamble.
Right.
So, like you said, if you can have Kelvin, who's just as talented or very, very talented, like nobody had it.
He checks more boxes.
Yeah. And I think you're more comfortable with somebody like Kelvin. Like we're talking about specifically just on the field only because of what they do. Because you don't have to worry about a lot of things with Diggs where, something, the eyes, he might get something might trigger something, they jump. So might trigger something and they're kind of off it for a second. But Diggs can make up for it. The same thing though. Kelvin is more of the. It's like when we were talking like going into the draft. Like there's two different types of corners. Like the guys that really always take it away and the guy that take you away. And they have a legit chance to have the best of both worlds over there.
Right.
Where you compare a guy who, if the ball is near his hands, we're going the other way. It's not a PBU, it's to the crib. Or it's just a matter of, not to the crib, but how far are we returning it to the crib? Or is it just a 15, 20-yard return? But it's not a PBU. To a guy where, if you come over here, ain't nothing here for you guys. Go attack the slot. Go find somewhere else. Like, it's going to take you some time to work me. Like, it's not happening. I think that was the that was kind of like the separation between we saw this in free agency with two corners. We saw the guy who took the ball away all the time with J.C. Jackson, and you saw the guy in Charvarius Ward that was just like, I kind of just like, you just don't have big games against me.
Right.
And people get excited about one or the other depending on what your preference is. But I think Dallas has the opportunity, luckily, where you can get you have one of each type of corner on rookie deals.
Right.
Where, like you say, sometimes they accidentally luck into stuff. Dude got a chance to be a really good corner and give them one of the, like a premier duo in the league, which would change so much, especially when your pass rush is kind of lacking. That gives you, that can really help it, right? And then you talk about your wild card of Parsons. That affects him too. Give him some more time to do what he does. Gives guys up front to run some more games. Yeah, go a long way. And then I guess, what's it called? I told you I share my blanket statement for you for any time you ask anything about the Niners. This year for me is pretty much the 2020 and 2021 draft classes. That's it. You find out if you hit, you're in a good place this year. It's really that simple, honestly. You got BA, you got Kinlaw and BA coming to year 3. Both of them so far, you hit on the talent. You're just waiting for the consistency. For Kinlaw, it's been health related. If he's out there, he was worth the pick. He does what you asked him to do for your team. I know some people don't like to hear that because people want people to be DeForest Buckner. That's not what he was drafted to do. He was drafted to go be big, strong, eat double teams, and break stuff. He does those things. When healthy, He does those things. And we saw last year, with him not being there, they had to go move Eric inside full time to fix it. Which to me kind of speaks volumes, right? That dude, regardless of who was next to him, he's doing something right. BA, problem. He's been a problem. But it's just been a matter of, for whatever the reasons, I'm not going to bash dude today, not being always capitalize on opportunities. Like you were talking about, like the BA situation is the complete opposite of Miko's situation. BA came in, Debo's over there, they got a Kittle, and BA's like, I'm going to win my matchup. I'm going to win my matchup again. Oh, I got the ball, I'm going to make something shake. Where Miko, you're like, hey, come on, man, come do something. Come on. They're not thinking about you. And it hasn't been that type of thing. There's some other folks in that class as well, but 2021 draft class where it felt like the whole draft class was for this year. When people were complaining and being upset. That whole draft class was about 2022. Well, we're at the 2022 season. The quarterback. The running back that you paired with the quarterback. The running backs, rather, that you paired with the quarterback. You drafted, like even the kids from this year, I'm not even really worried about them. Like, if they contribute, that's cool, but I feel like it's a limited role if you follow what they've been doing. So it's time for the year 3 guys. Y'all got to show up and be ready and contribute. Like, they're counting on you. The year 2 guys, you had a year to get ready. Come be what they thought you could be. Like, come justify that they hit on the talent. So, we're talking about the O-line or whatever, what have you. If you end up with Trent and McGlinchey as the edge guys, it's a decent duo. You can do far worse in this league than having one of the best left tackles to ever play the game. And Mike McGlinchey, if you just look at his position, people can be mad all they want. He's not in the bottom half of the league at his position. He's actually pretty decent. And sometimes, you guys, you might even come to find out that the guy in the center kind of affects what happens up front sometimes. Again, not bashing anybody, just saying. But they got to figure out the 3 spots in between. And I think what they did is there's a bunch of people, and you find out. Jalen Moore, they drafted you to be a guard. Are you a guard? If you're a guard, we find out what happens. Aaron Banks, change your whole body around, what have you. Try to play you at right guard last year. It was like, no, you're a left guard. They left you at your natural position and even create a vacancy so you step into your job. Earn it. Show them that, your faith was correct. Every time it's some of the corners from last year. It's year 2, buddy. It took you a little while to play last year, but it's year 2. Add to the depth. It's just that simple. I think the only thing that might be different this year, well, not even, because I was going to talk about the nickel thing, but I don't think it matters because if, like I said, the 2020, 2021 classes do their job, you got flexibility everywhere. So the nickel thing kind of takes care of itself. And even on the defensive side, folks that you brought in, you got Talanoa Funga. Looks like they believe in you for something. I don't know what it is. We're going to find out. And I'm not saying he's bad. It's clearly a stark difference from the pair that they had. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's bad or whatever. What I know is you'll never be Jaquasi Tart because y'all are 2 totally different football players. And that's why, I think for you and myself and some others, the struggle is, but I'm going to disconnect that. You have nothing to do with Tart. Your role won't be Tart's. Cool. And then lastly, I think the wards. The impact of the wards on the secondary, both of them. That's it. But that's my general disclaimer. The 2020 and 21 draft classes matter. If you get anything from 2022 class, cool. It just doesn't matter. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. It just means next year you count on them. That's it for me, really. But yeah, I'm happy camp is here, man. I'm ready for all the nonsense across the league. And everybody going crazy about the running of routes on air and charting and making charts and graphs of passing and things like that nature. But is there anything else specifically you're thinking of or you're excited about to check out this week camp wise before we end this week's today's episode?
Not really. I mean, I guess just the excitement to see with a lot of young receivers in the class.
Yeah.
Seeing what happens with Burks, Olave, Garrett Wilson. It'll be interesting to watch, and not most of them have guys next to him, so it's not like it's on them. Like Burks has a lot of pressure. I mean, even though I think Robert Woods is there, but I mean, most of these guys are walking in a situation where they're kind of like a number 1, but the guys next to them can play as well. So it's not, it's not just out there focused 100%, but we know how it's going to work. They're going to show you every drop, every mistake some of these guys make. Like some of these guys have like bursts in a spot where he's coming from a hole, media-wise, because he's going to be trying to outlive that asthma thing or whatever that was, being in bad shape. But again, for what they have, if he can just be half of the, or show a little bit of what he showed at Arkansas, they'll be fine. Because Robert Woods is a good player also, and just that team's ran a certain kind of way, and he fits that. So I think that he's a player I definitely want to see what he does.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that's the most interesting part too. Is all of those young, almost the entire rookie class, all have like a legit veteran or veteran core, where even if they were drafted to be wide receiver 1, you don't have to be it this year. Like, it's okay. None of you have to be that. Like, none of y'all have to walk in and be Jamar Chase. None of y'all have to walk in and be Justin Jefferson. Like, you want to talk about pressure? Justin Jefferson got drafted to replace Stephon Diggs. That's pressure. None of y'all have that pressure. And I'm not trying to knock A.J. Brown. No disrespect to him. He's not Stephon Diggs. That was pressure. Like, that was legit pressure. None of y'all are walking into that at all. Like, they bet on your talent, and you get a chance to kind of get your feet wet. Whatever happens this year is a bonus, and it's just how quickly you can get there. But it doesn't, like, if you start slow, it's not the end of the world for your team's offense. Like, for none of them, honestly.
Right.
Which I guess is a beautiful thing, right? For all of the teams, like, give them credit for doing that. But looking forward to see what the rest of this week holds, especially training camp. We'll get some more noise going into tomorrow after teams. You got some teams that already started, like, literally going through their training camp paces and whatnot. Other teams reporting today and tomorrow, and then hitting the field. By Wednesday morning, yeah, things we should have some stuff to talk about. Obviously, not on the in a negative regard. Just good news. Again, everyone's probably happy. Football season is officially here. But y'all enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time as always, between 9:30 and 10 a.m. For Mornings with the Folks, for Justin Walters and myself. Y'all have a great day.